You know, when you look at a plant, a moss, a tree, whatever, its life seems pretty straightforward, right? It sprouts, it grows, it dies. But what if I told you that every single plant is living this bizarre, hidden, double life, following a set of rules that are completely alien to us?
No, I'm serious. Think about it for a second. You have one body. You go from a baby to an adult, and that's it. But imagine if, to complete your life cycle, you had to switch between two totally different bodies. Well, that's exactly what plants are doing all the time.
All right, so let's break this down. On the left, you've got the animal life cycle. That's us. It's super direct. A diploid adult makes haploid gametes. Boom, done. But then you look at plants on the right, and they throw in this crazy extra step. A diploid plant makes haploid spores, and these spores, they don't find a partner, nope. They grow into a whole new, separate haploid body, and it's that body that finally gets around to making the gametes. It's like a two-act play every single time, and this weird intermission, well, that's the key to everything.
So to really wrap our heads around this whole double life thing, we got to go over some ground rules, the rules of the biological game, if you will. And it all boils down to one simple thing: counting chromosomes. Let's stick with us humans for a second. It makes it easier. See, most of the cells in your body are what we call diploid, or 2N. All that means is they have two full sets of chromosomes. You get one set from mom, one set from dad. Pretty simple. But your reproductive cells, your gametes, they're different. They're haploid, or N. They've only got a single set. And this difference, diploid versus haploid, is absolutely crucial.
Okay, so how do these cells make more of themselves? Well, the first way is through mitosis. The easiest way to think of mitosis is like a biological copy machine. Seriously, that's all it is. It's for growth, for repair. One cell just splits into two perfect, identical copies. Same number of chromosomes, everything's the same, just simple duplication.
But then, there's the other method, meiosis. And if mitosis is the copy machine, meiosis is the having machine. This is a super special process. It takes one of those diploid 2N cells and puts it through a division that literally cuts the chromosome number in half, creating haploid N cells. This is the absolute key to sexual reproduction. It's how we make our gametes.
And right here, you can see the difference perfectly. Over on the left, mitosis is just one clean split. One cell becomes two identical ones. But on the right, you see meiosis is this more complicated two-step dance that ends up with cells that have only half the genetic info. Now, you got to keep these two processes straight, mitosis and meiosis, because they are the engines that make this whole plant double life thing work.
Okay, so we've got the rules down. Now let's actually meet the stars of the show, the two different bodies, or generations, that are at the heart of this whole botanical drama.
And here they are, our two main players. On one side, we have the sporophyte. This guy is diploid, 2N, and his job? It makes spores, and it does that using the having machine, meiosis. But then on the other side, you've got the gametophyte. This one is haploid, N. And here's the part that messes with your head. Its job is to make gametes, sperm and egg, but it uses the copy machine, mitosis. Think about that. It's already haploid, right? It doesn't need to have its chromosomes. So it just copies its gametes into existence. Wild, right?
So let's walk through the whole cycle. You start with the diploid sporophyte. It undergoes meiosis to make haploid spores. Those spores land somewhere and grow into a whole new plant, the haploid gametophyte. That gametophyte then makes haploid gametes, which find each other, fuse, and what do you get? A brand new diploid sporophyte. They literally take turns, one generation creating the next. And that cycle, right there, is what we call the alternation of generations.
But here's where it gets really interesting. This relationship wasn't always the same. Over hundreds of millions of years, a massive power struggle has been playing out between these two generations.
Let's roll back the clock. Act 1 of this evolutionary play stars the early land plants, like mosses. And back then, one generation was clearly the main event. So you know when you see that soft green carpet of moss on a rock? What you're actually looking at is the haploid gametophyte. That's the main plant. It's doing all the photosynthesis, living its own independent life. And the sporophyte? Well, that's just that little brown stalk you sometimes see poking out the top. It's diploid, sure, but it's physically attached to its gametophyte parent, basically living off of it for its whole life. It's completely dependent.
Okay, Act 2. The ferns show up on the scene, and now the whole power dynamic starts to flip on its head.
Now with ferns, things are totally different. That big, leafy plant we all think of as a fern, that's now the diploid sporophyte. it has become the dominant generation. The haploid gametophyte is still around, but now it's just this tiny little heart-shaped thing, often too small to even notice. It can live on its own, but the huge fern we see actually starts its life attached to that tiny little parent before it takes over.
And that brings us to Act 3, total domination. We're talking about the plants that run the world today. Flowers, pine trees, you name it.
With seed plants, the takeover is absolute. The sporophyte is literally everything you see: the tree, the rose bush, the blades of grass. So where did the gametophyte go? It's been shrunk down to almost nothing. The female gametophyte is just a few microscopic cells, totally hidden and protected inside the sporophyte's ovule. And the male gametophyte? Get this, it's the pollen grain. It's not a plant anymore. It's just a delivery vehicle for sperm.
So, this timeline really lays out the whole epic story, doesn't it? You can see the clear trend. We start with mosses, where the gametophyte is king. Then we move to ferns, where the sporophyte takes over. And finally, we get to seed plants, where the sporophyte is completely dominant, and the gametophyte is just this tiny microscopic passenger along for the ride.
Okay, but this leads to the million-dollar question. Why? Why did this happen? What was the big evolutionary advantage here? Why did the diploid sporophyte win this war of the generations?
Let's just stop and think about it. What's so great about having two sets of chromosomes? What's the advantage of being diploid, 2N, compared to being haploid with just one set?
Well, it really comes down to two things, defense and potential. Think of it this way. As a diploid organism, you have a genetic backup plan. If one of your genes gets a nasty mutation, the second, healthy copy can usually step in and cover for it. It's like having a spare tire for your DNA. This genetic redundancy makes you way more resilient. And that stability might have been the key that unlocked the door to bigger, more complex genomes, the kind you need to build cool new things like wood, seeds, and flowers.
So you see, this ancient power struggle, this big shift towards a dominant diploid sporophyte, it's not just some weird bit of biology trivia. It is the fundamental reason for the wild success and just mind-blowing diversity of the plant kingdom we see all around us today. From the tallest redwood to the tiniest daisy, this is their story.
And that really brings the whole story full circle, doesn't it? In today's seed plants, those two generations, which started out as totally separate players, have become so tightly woven together that they basically act as one single incredibly successful organism. The long evolutionary drama has finally reached its conclusion.
So that leaves us with one last thing to think about. The next time you're walking outside and you see a flower or a tree, remember its secret, this hidden double life it's living. And it really makes you wonder, right? What other epic evolutionary stories are playing out, completely unseen, in all the life that's right under our noses?